This is Cynthia Gallardo, and I'm so excited to be here with you. Welcome to the Legacy and Me podcast. I'm very excited to have my very own cousin and entrepreneur, Alicia Velazquez, with me with Designs by Alicia, right? Is that the name of it? Designs by
Made
Alicia? Made by
made
Alicia.
by Alicia Marie.
Made by
Yep.
Alicia. Excellent. Oh, I'm so excited. So check her out on Facebook and she'll share some other information where she can be reached as well. But we'll just go through, just make it a conversation. I'm very excited to learn about legacy, right? Because we talk about legacy a lot in the community with our families. And it's so important to make sure people live and leave a lasting legacy. And that's what Legacy and Me podcast is about. So we can go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, I have Alicia Velazquez with me, but if you want to introduce yourself formally, Alicia, and then share with us a little bit about your business, okay?
Yeah. So like Cynthia said, my name's Alicia Velazquez. I am 27 years old and mainly work in the corporate professional world, and then needed kind of somewhere for my creative energy to go. And I've always loved knitting. I've been knitting now for what's almost 20 years, which is crazy. But I think during COVID picked it back up, and it kind of became more than just a hobby to me. But yeah, and then so that kind of led into, I always wanted to do an Etsy store, kind of start my own, I guess, small business. It's kind of weird adjusting to that actually being a thing. But that's kind of how that started. Is I had a little more downtime with work, just things were slowing down a little bit. I was at home all the time. And so yeah, I turned that creative energy into just knitting a bunch of things and then sharing it with people on Etsy. So that's kind of how things got started for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Why you bring up so many important things there. First of all, you're right. There's so many businesses were started during the COVID, right? The pandemic. So I'm glad to hear that you've continued moving forward with that. So that's fantastic. And that you've looked for a channel or found a channel for all your creative energy, because I know you do have a lot of creative energy. So it's great that you're utilizing it in a way to help other people as well. And so what type of things do you have in your Etsy store? Share with us a little bit more about the products that you provide.
Yeah, so I mainly started off doing like knitted beanies. And then I kind of got into doing ear warmers because I have curly hair, so I don't wear beanies. So I was like, I need something that I can wear, that I can use. So those are kind of like the two main things that I do. And those, most of the time I use more of like a machine knitting to do those, because it's a little bit quicker, not so much of the manual process of it. And then I still have some hand knitted items. There's just a lot less of those because they take me so much longer to do, and a little more expensive for me to do those too. So those are kind of like the main things. But I recently started doing like blankets and scarves. And those have become super popular as well. So it's kind of, I have all of these ideas in my head of like things I would love to get into, but I am trying to kind of take it, a step at a time, and I don't want to have too many things going on at once. So kind of focusing on those main products and making sure I'm kind of doing the best I can on those. And then when I'm ready, I'll probably start coming up with new things and using some of these ideas that are in my head.
That's awesome, Alicia. Well, I appreciate you shared so many positive things with us, so many gems here. First of all, it's all about the process, right? And I always thought, I know when I was in school and then working in corporate America too, that the more you do the multitasking, the better you are. But it's actually the opposite. Science has found that it's better if you focus on certain things, right? And that's what you're doing. You're becoming an expert in the certain things, and then you'll move on to the next one. So I really appreciate you bringing that out in your own experience as an entrepreneur. That's awesome. And the other thing I really like is that you're using technology to your benefit, right? So you're doing some hand crocheting, or is it knitting or crocheting? Or because
Knitting.
Okay, so some hand
Yep.
knitting. And I may need a little lesson on knitting versus crocheting, but hand knitting, and then you have technology that you're utilizing as well to provide more products. So that is fantastic, Alicia. I'm so proud of you for doing that. And I'll definitely, even though I live in Louisiana and we don't get really cold here, we do use scarves. So I'll definitely have to get some of those scarves from you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love your logo as well. Your logo. Can you share a little bit about how you came up with your logo? Because we'll be sharing it in the video that will be provided after this. And then also I'll include your logo as well. So can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that I actually made the logo before I even really had like my Etsy store going, before it really became a thing, because like I said, this was always something I knew I wanted to do. So it was probably a couple week process of trying to figure out like, what do I want my logo to be? What do I want it to represent? And I have a lot of drafts of like ideas I was going through, but I think for me, the main thing was I wanted it to be simple, but I also wanted it to tie into who I am. And for me, my name has always just been something that I take so much pride in, being,
Yes.
where my name came from, and then especially where my last name comes from and who it comes from. And so I always knew that I wanted my initials somehow kind of in that design. And so that's actually what my logo is. It's my initials are AMV for Alicia Marie Velazquez. So it's my initials kind of combined a little bit. But I wanted to make sure it wasn't too busy, kind of sleek, but still gave off who I am. And
Yes.
I'm really happy with how that turned out.
Oh, it did. It turned out fantastic. And for anyone listening and watching, her logo is so cute. And it's exactly that. It's so classy and chic. It's simple but classy. So I really like the way you did that. And I like the way you kind of shared with your journey, as an entrepreneur. And it's a lot what I talk about, getting into what we call the legacy zone, right? You take an idea to a vision, to a reality, to a profitable business in this case, and that becomes your legacy, right? And you talked about your name being part of your legacy. So we can start into that legacy conversation, right? Because you think about legacy, for many people, it means different things. But what would you say legacy means to you, Alicia?
Yeah. So for me, when I think about legacy, it's for me, there's two parts, right? It's taking what was kind of given to me through opportunities that those before me, had, and the struggles they had to go through. But then also, what am I doing with those legacies and those opportunities? What am I doing with those, and how am I creating a legacy for those that are coming after me? And I think just overall, this has always been something that's so important to me. And I kind of always take a pause and try to remember, like, this wasn't always an opportunity that, even my grandparents would have had the possibility of doing. And so just reminding myself that because of that, I'm taking it and turning it into this. And then I want to make sure I, in turn can turn it into something for those after me as well.
Wow, that is fantastic. I love the way you bring that in because it's the past, what's been handed to you, right? Or given to you as opportunity. And then you're utilizing it now, bringing in new things, and then you can share it with the future. And in fact, paying it forward, right? Right. So it's living it now and then leaving that lasting legacy. So I can definitely tell you, you are leaving your mark or your footprint or your fingerprint, whatever you want to call it. And that's fantastic. I really appreciate that from you. And also, I like the way you describe it because it is a two-part process, right? As far as what you have from the present and what you're going to take into the future. That's great. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about, you shared with us a little bit about your experience, but what really enticed you to become an entrepreneur? I know you said it's kind of like that side thing you were doing with your regular corporate job, but what's really, why were you so passionate about it? Why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah. So that question in itself, I feel like I've never called myself an entrepreneur. And so to have you call me that, I'm like, wow, like, I guess that's what I am, right? Like, that's what I'm doing. And because for me, it was just kind of like a hobby, something I love to do. But I think just realizing that I care so much about it and I'm so passionate about it, and the reward I get from doing it is so much more than just a hobby. So I think that's kind of how it turned into what it is right now. And I hope, I can continue to grow and, make new things and kind of spread the word a little bit more about what I do and who I am. But that's kind of for me the process that it's taken is kind of the hobby turning into the actually doing something about it, turning into I'm an entrepreneur. This is like a small business, and it's something I love doing, but it's definitely been a process.
Wow, well, that's great. And I'm so glad that now here in Legacy and Me, you realize yes, you are an entrepreneur, right? Because
Yeah.
you're taking all that creative energy, as you mentioned, you're putting it into something a product that you can provide, a service you can provide, and somebody else on the other end is able to benefit, right? So you, in exchange for them paying you, let's say you're providing a service or a product, and that's what entrepreneurship is about. And as an entrepreneur, we have a great privilege where we can help the community, right? We can help our own families, but we can also help the community. And as you mentioned earlier, it's something that you want to pay forward in the future. And I have so many great ideas that as a family we can do, as far as continuing to leave that legacy. So that's great. You brought that up. So now we talked a little bit about the past, what brought you into this, and now what about the present? What are some of the things that you're doing now as far as your business goes, your legacy goes?
Yeah. So I think right now it's just focusing on figuring out how I'm going to kind of continue this, have it go forward, but also still, I do still have, my day job and my corporate job, what I went to college for. So I think right now it's just kind of figuring out the balance between that. And I think right now it's a little hard just because it's like Christmas time, people are holiday shopping, so I'm super like busy with, this Made by Alicia Marie. So I think just trying to figure out that balance right now is kind of a big focus for me. And then I think with who I am as a person, I'm very detailed. Like I need things planned out. I need to see things. And so what I've been wanting to do lately is just sit down and really plan out like what my vision is for this within probably the next year or so. Because right now, like I said, there's just so much in my head, right? So many ideas, so many things I want to do. But I think I need to start laying out like a plan for really what I want this to become over the next year. And so hopefully that can make it a little more possible for me to do that.
Okay, and it definitely will. I can assure you, and I've worked with many entrepreneurs, you can do it. I know everybody has so much going on. And like you said, you actually are doing something that's fantastic. You're riding that wave of when the influx of customers will be there and making sure you have what you need there, right? And then on the low times, that's when you really focus on putting everything out for the high times. And those are some things that we can talk about later as well. But you mentioned something that a lot of entrepreneurs go through. It's like that feeling of overwhelm, like, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? You want to do something more, but when do you do it? So one of the key things that I found is delegating, and we can talk more later about that too, but making sure that you delegate those things that can be delegated, right? Because I know you personally, you're my cousin, so I know you personally, you have that drive, but you can do so much on your own. But when you surround yourself with other people, that's that synergy that I talk a lot about. The whole is greater than the individual parts. You can do so much more. So I always think about it this way, the power of one, that's each of us, but then you get synergy involved, and that's like, oh my goodness, we can do so much more. So I know you're going to do
Yeah.
great things with that, continuing to do those things as well. So I like what you say there, because you always want to put it on paper, have a plan, and make sure you work that plan. And something else that works a lot very well for me, because I understand that overwhelm, is compartmentalizing things, right? Your corporate versus your business and things like that. And delegation, of course, is important. So good. Well, I'm glad I know that I'm not alone. And I know a lot of people listening as an entrepreneur know that you are not alone, right? Those are things that all of us feel as we're going through this roller coaster of entrepreneurship. So thank you for being authentic and sharing that with us, Alicia. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
So the other thing I'd like to know, so now we know a little bit about your past, your present, and now let's hear a little bit more about what are some future goals you have for yourself as far as your business, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I think that's something for me that is a little bit cloudy at the moment. I think kind of like what we just talked about, the present still kind of being more of something I need to figure out. But I mean, ideally, right? Like I'd be able to juggle the job I have now, turn this into something that's a little bit bigger, use the time that I do have wisely and build, like you said, build, my inventory, I guess you would say, for those times that I know are busier throughout the year. But I mean, ideally, I would love to keep this going and still have that balanced life between my job and my business. So that would be my ideal future. But
Great.
we know it doesn't always work that way. So
Yeah, I mean, we can plan, sometimes we have to deviate, right? But ultimately we get back to where we're going, and it's really understanding the market, right? What's the need, the customer need, and working from there. But I know you will be in place, because I actually I have a presentation that coming up actually this coming weekend, and I talk in there about the statistics based on the U.S. Bureau Labor and Statistics Bureau, if I can say it. But anyway, statistics that are out there, right? And basically they're saying that small businesses fail within the first year, 20% of them, right? And then within the first 2 years, 30%. And then within the first 5 years, it goes all the way up to 50%. But I tell you that not to scare you, not to scare anyone listening, but it's to let you know that there is success out there. And when you surround yourself with people who have been there and done that and are successful, you're guaranteed success. You'll be able to move forward. And I know you personally have a great network of individuals, that surround you, support you in what you're doing, your fiance, your your family, your parents, your brothers, your cousins. You know, there's so many people out there that support you, and your friends, and all of that is so, so important. And I always talk to people about borrowed belief. Sometimes we lose belief in ourselves, but if we borrow that belief from other people, man, that really keeps us going, right? So I know you can borrow belief from me because I believe in you, your parents, and there's so many other people out there. So keep moving forward. I know you will be successful with this. And I have some ideas too that I'll have to share with you offline. I'm really
Yeah,
excited for
and
you. I'm so excited.
yeah, and I really like that you brought that up because I think for me that's something that's kept me going, even though this is, for me just my second year kind of doing this. But I think like my fiance specifically, but definitely like my parents and my cousins that are, they're supporting me. They're all my biggest cheerleaders, and it's even like kind of identifying my own worth, right? Like when I'm pricing products or when I'm talking to people about products, I'm just like, oh yeah, I made this, like it's nice. But my fiance's like, no, she spent hours doing this. I watched her do it, and there was a lot that went into it, and she had to do this, this, and this. And it kind of, those people remind me like, what I'm doing is worth something. It's my time. It's my, just my ability to make these products. And so having those people there has been very helpful in kind of reminding me what my worth is, and that belief, and just in myself. So
Well, good. Well, I'm so glad you said that too, and you reinforced it, because the biggest thing, Alicia, is knowing our value, knowing our worth, right? And you put that into the product, what you do, because I know you do everything with love, right? With that kindness, and you want it to be the best for people. So making sure that you, that you sell it in that way, right? Or you offer it in that way, because you are valuable. Nobody else can do what you do, right? I always talk to people about DNA. I love DNA, right? It's something that it's captivating to me because it makes us unique. Nobody else can make what you do, Alicia. Nobody else, because nobody is you. You are unique to you, right? So that's where that DNA comes in. Now, I'm glad we have some shared DNA as well, right? Down the line, but that's awesome.
yeah.
You are unique to you. So definitely continue to know your worth and value as well. If you ever come across a moment where you're like, well, what do I do? Call me. I'm here to help in any way I can. Okay. I want you to continue to
I
be
appreciate it.
successful. That's great. So I'm glad we brought that up. And a lot of people as entrepreneurs, we sometimes don't value ourselves or give ourselves the worth that we really should. And that's something we constantly have to battle against. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy, right? So that's where mindset comes in. We have to make sure we continue with that positive mindset. So I appreciate you bringing those things up. So now we've talked about your past, your present, and then some future goals, right? And I know you're continuing to work on those. So whenever you have those available, let me know, and I'll be glad to blast it out to the world as well to support you and be your cheerleader out there too. So I do want to ask you this. So now, because there's entrepreneurs listening today, right? Or people thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, and maybe they're kind of hesitant, they're fearful, feel overwhelmed, just don't know what to do. What are some 3 top gems that you could say, or takeaways for them that they can take away and immediately implement today based on your experience?
Yeah. So I think the first one would be just do it.
Yes.
It's definitely easier said than done, don't get me wrong, but this has turned into what it is just because I decided just to do it. I didn't think too hard about, with who I am, I usually overthink the things. I need the details, I need this or that. And for this, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Whatever it becomes, it becomes. If I sell 2 things in the next year, at least I sold 2 things and I loved making those 2 things, and that's all that mattered to me in that moment. And so just doing it is for me like a gem that has turned this into what it is for myself, but I feel like it could definitely help other people as well. And I think another one is kind of what we talked about, and it would be just to like, don't be scared to rely on those people around you, the people that love you and the people that care about you, because a lot of times, even if it's just bouncing the ideas off of them or talking things through with them, like, because those people love you, they're gonna tell you how it is, but also support you. And that's super important in making a decision to go forward with starting your own business or, getting those ideas out there. So that for me would be number 2. And then I think number 3, for me, and it's something I try to remember every day, is just like, this is important to me and it's something I love. So not getting absorbed in like the quantity of it, right? I could make 100 beanies in a week, but they might not be that great. Or I can make 100 ear warmers and they might not be that great. So not getting sucked up in, with social media and just life today. It's so busy, this. And so just taking some time sometimes to kind of step back and realign yourself and with what you're really wanting to do and really with what's important to you. Those are all three things that I try to do, on the regular when it comes to my small business.
Oh, I love that. And I took some notes. I'm a big note taker. I'm like you, I'm very detailed. I have to know the ins and outs before I do something. So just do it is so important because there's so many people out there that always think, what if I would have started this or done that? But you know what? If you never try it, you don't know. So I'm glad you brought that up. Just do it. And then also relying on your support. So important because we cannot do these things alone. You may be able to start it alone, but you won't be able to continue it alone. So that's key. Relying on that circle of support that you have. And then the third one, which I think is fantastic also, is loving it, loving what you're doing, but also providing that quality product or service out there because there's so many people out there. There's a lot of competition, but nobody else can provide the quality that you provide because only Alicia can do that, right? So that's fantastic that you brought those three things up. And as I mentioned before, anyone listening in today, this will be on the Legacy and Me podcast on YouTube as well, on my channel. I'll have a transcript for individuals so they can go back and take a look and pull out anything that they need as well. But I also want to make sure that you share, how can we get in contact with you? How can somebody, if they want to order from you, if they want to be able to ask you questions, how can they get in contact with you, Alicia?
Yeah, so I think the main thing is my Etsy page is kind of where my main hub for everything is. And on Etsy, my shop name is Made by Alicia Marie with no spaces in between. But then I also have email, which is made by aliciamv@gmail.com. And then I try to be active on Instagram and Facebook as well. And there you can find links to my Etsy shop and all of that. And that's the same, Made by Alicia Marie is the account name for both of those.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, I love that, how it's very consistent, right, with your brand and your logo. So that's fantastic. And like I said, all this information will be in, well, this video format, but it'll also be in the transcript for individuals who'd like to reach out to you and, just ask questions as an entrepreneur, a budding entrepreneur, and then also as for the products that you provide. And I know you'll be coming up with some new things, so I can't wait to, see those.
And I love it. I love when I get the messages and the questions. So it's definitely reach out.
Good. I appreciate that. And so anyone listening, definitely reach out to Alicia. She offers great products. And as she mentioned, quality is a very, very important part of her equation, right? And the process that she goes through. So making sure reach out to her that she offers many, many things for you. So as we discussed throughout this discussion today, legacy is so important. You mentioned some great things about the past and then also carrying it on into the future, right? And that's what we all want to do, is leave a positive mark in this world. There's so much negativity out there. Let's leave a net positive for people. And that's what you're doing with your business, Alicia. So every time somebody's wearing that hat, that beanie, a scarf, the glove, whatever they're wearing with your brand, you're leaving that positive mark. So I congratulate you for what you're doing. I give you many, many virtual hugs because I know it's hard, but you're continuing on that path moving forward. So I encourage you to continue. And anyone listening in, if you're thinking about it, like Alicia said, just do it. Because come tomorrow, a year from now, you'll be in the same spot, not getting it done. So just take care and do it now. So anything you want to close with before we close out the discussion today?
Yeah, I mean, just thank you for having me on here with you. And something I would like to just tell you is how much I look up to you as an older cousin of mine and, what you're doing. And I think you're helping me create the mindset in myself of, I'm an entrepreneur, this is a small business and I'm doing it. And so I think it's building something within me too. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, Alicia. Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you taking it from hobby to business, you are definitely an entrepreneur. So I'm here to help in any way I can. Please reach out to me. Anybody out there, reach out to me as well at Cynthia Gallardo Legacy. I'm here to help. It's all about legacy, right? I'm your favorite legacy lady. That's what I always tell people. Cynthia Gallardo, your favorite legacy lady. So Alicia, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'll be reaching out to you once the transcript and video is available. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you
Yeah,
for joining
perfect.
me
Thank
too.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you all for signing in to Cynthia Gallardo, Legacy, and also Legacy and Me podcast. Have a great day. Take care. I'm going to